Look, man, there's a part of, the journey and the process that nobody talks about, and it's that part where it kind of gets lonely. It kind of feels like you by yourself in everything that you're doing because nobody's seeing, the visions that you have. Nobody's seeing the work you're putting in. Nobody's seeing, how much you are actually growing each and every day. And, it's going to feel lonely and you're going to feel by yourself before it starts to feel worth it. Before it starts to feel like you've actually done something or you've actually, made it, because that growth that you want, that progress that you want, it doesn't start with applause. It doesn't start with everybody in your corner. It doesn't start with everybody rooting for you. Like all that is going to come along the way when people start to see the results and people start to see that you have, became successful. You've reached your goals. You've done what you said you're going to do for a long time, but people aren't there from the beginning. People aren't there throughout the entire journey, throughout the entire process, throughout that growth period. Like your growth starts with isolation. Your process, your journey, you becoming a better version of you chasing after your goals. It involves a lot of isolation periods. It involves a lot of times where, it might get lonely because like I always say, when you start to grow and you start to make progress, it's going to separate you from a lot of people. People that you might have been kicking it with for a long time, or you might have been around for a long time. And, you start to outgrow those people. You start to outgrow different environments, and like I always say, there's nothing wrong with that because that shows that you are growing. Like when you start changing, when you start moving forward, you will not fit where you used to belong or where you used to be comfortable at, around the people you used to be comfortable around, in the environments you used to be comfortable in. Like those old habits, the old people, the old conversations, like they just won't feel right for you. And that's fine. Like that means you're growing, and like I always say, everybody can't go to the top with you. Like not everybody and not everything is meant to go where you're going. And that's perfectly fine. So there's going to be times where you might feel lonely. Like there's going to be times where you feel like people might not understand you or people might not, be rooting for you. And that's fine. Because at the end of the day, like what you're doing in that journey you're on, those things you're trying to accomplish will all be worth it in the end. On the way to the top, you might lose some people. You might change environments. You might lose some old habits, but that's what's needed in order to get to where you want to go. Because that isolation season, that lonely season is where you build the most. It's where you grow the most. Like that's where your discipline is built. That's where your faith is built. That's where you get to find out who you are and what you like to do. That's where your character is formed. Because like I said in the beginning, not a lot of people see what you're doing on a daily basis. Not a lot of people are in your corner, so nobody sees the early mornings, the late nights, the quiet nights, the times where you're sacrificing a lot, the times where you're just exhausted, but you're still going, the times where you might just sit in your room and just cry sometimes or just feel down sometimes, like there's a lot of times where it really do get lonely on this journey and this process. But that's where the growth comes from. That's where you make the most progress in this journey and trying to reach your goals and trying to become successful, trying to become this better version of yourself. Like that's where most of it happens when you're isolated, because God often removes the distractions before he shows you direction, before he shows you and puts you on this path that he wants you to be on. Like he wants you to get rid of the distractions first, because when you're always distracted, you can't really see the purpose you're chasing after. You can't see where God is trying to, lead you on this path. Like you can't even see the path because you're so tapped into all these different distractions, all these different people, your energy is pulled each and every way. So it's hard to gain clarity on where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do, so sometimes like you might need to get isolated, you might need that period of isolation. And just because you're isolated, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. Like I said, growth, it comes with a lot of separation from people, from environments, from habits, whatever you might get separated from. Like growth does that because you're progress more in your life than the people that you might have been around. And I'm not saying that to say like you're better than them, because you're not, but you just become, a different version of you. You've grown in a lot of different ways. And just because you might be by yourself or you might be, isolated doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Like that feeling alone, feeling, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means that you're evolving. It means that you're going in the right direction. It means that you're growing, because at some point you're going to outgrow people. You're going to outgrow environments. Like, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but if it feels uncomfortable, that's because you're just leaving who you used to be. You're not that old person you used to be anymore. You're not that person who will fall into temptations or fall into bad habits, or, be distracted all that time, because as always, like, the uncomfortable times is where you grow the most. The uncomfortable moments, the uncomfortable environments is where you're forced to grow, So if you become uncomfortable, that means you're growing, and every breakthrough that you want, every opportunity that you want, every door to open that you want, like, they require separation before you're able to elevate. They require isolation before you're able to take that next step. Like, you gotta be, I'm not saying you gotta be, but you're gonna be separated most of the time before you make that jump, or before you take it to that next level. So during this time, bro, like, don't get down on yourself, regardless of how isolated you might feel or lonely you might feel, because just know that it's part of the process. It's part of the journey. Like, everybody goes through it, so just keep going, man. Stay the course, keep showing up each and every day, keep putting energy where your energy's supposed to go, keep working, keep grinding, like, because at the end, it's all going to be worth it. Those lonely times, those hard times, those tough times, the times where you might fail, like, in the end, it's all going to be worth it, because one day when you look back, bro, the same season, that felt lonely, that felt like nobody had your back, will all feel worth it in the end, bro. Like, when you become that version that you want to become, when you reach that success, when you have those goals accomplished, you turn those dreams to reality, like, everything's going to be worth it. So don't give up just because it might be lonely right now, or, it feels like you just by yourself. Like, keep going, man. Keep showing up each and every day, and all these hard times are going to be worth it in the end. But that'll be all for this video, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you like this video, go hit that sub button. We're over to 800 subs. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one.